Hey, this is Alex with Grow How. Today I want to talk about, well, what I don't want to talk about. Let's do that first. What I don't want to talk about is xeriscaping, or at least not too much. Xeriscaping is a water conserving idea. It's been around for a long time. It was developed by an agency in Colorado, I forget which one, and is a trademark of that company. So hopefully they don't mind my use of that. But Xeriscape is a great idea. It did great things, but in the common imagination, it's come to mean just rocks, sometimes cactus if you're really lucky. And that was never the intent of xeriscaping. It doesn't mean zero, it means desert, it means dry. And for people out here in the West, I'm in Utah, it's even drier here than it is in Colorado. That means that we've done a certain amount of that. But again, most people don't understand it. Most people don't know how to use it. Even a lot of designers don't know how to use it well. And so often it just ends up being, again, literally rocks, including a couple places that are within easy walking distance of my place. In response to that, one of the local water conservation agencies in Utah, the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, that's even longer than the name that I came up with for my first company, looked at that and said, this isn't doing us any good because everyone thinks that Xeriscape's ugly. Well, I mean, it isn't, but the common perception is that it is. And so they put their minds to it, and they talked about design, and they talked about a lot of different things, and they finally got together what I just have to say is a brilliant program. It's called Localscapes. And the great thing about Localscapes is it's not focusing on the weird wonky stuff that a horticulturalist or a landscape designer might do, or extensive knowledge of plants, which helps a lot in Xeriscape. But what it does do is it teaches design basics that'll make your home comfortable. It'll give your landscape a feel that will make you want to spend time in it, that inherently is less water using, and that is really fundamentally an enjoyable experience. And then it gives you basic things on how to achieve that. So the first thing we talk about when we're looking at a Localscapes design is you want to have an open center. People respond to trees and shrubs and flowers and stuff like that, and to lawn. But if you have just straight lawn or just straight trees, it starts feeling uncomfortable. We like somewhere where we can be in with the trees, but not just totally encompassed by them. You talk about old forests and them being oppressive and all this stuff, and then coming upon something that's open like a meadow or a clearing. And this emulates that and is really a very, very nice, comfortable, wonderful feel. And so that's the first thing you do, is when you're creating a landscape, look at creating an open center. And depending on your property, depending on how you want things to go and what you'd like to be included, this can be done 100 different ways, even on the same property. So it's really flexible, but it's very important. An open space in the center. The second thing is gathering areas. Gathering areas are basically outdoor rooms. This is an area where you can meet together. You can have, just sit down on the lawn with your kids if you have lawn. You can pull up some chairs, drink a few beers if you're into that, or whatever. These are places where people can meet instead of just having expanses of lawn. It has a tendency to not happen outside gathering if you don't have a place that's a little bit sense of purpose for it. These gathering places, really important if you're going to be having a productive, useful landscape or a useful garden. Number 3 is activity zones. Especially if you've got young kids, there's going to be kids running around, and there should be kids running around. If you're looking for a puritanical landscape, you're barking up the wrong tree in general. But not just kids, but do you play horseshoes? Are you going to play? I had a professor that his open center was specifically designed to meet the requirements of a regulation croquet pitch. Whatever you're doing, barbecuing, axe throwing, whatever, having an area that's set aside or areas set aside for these activities is highly important. The next feature we're looking at is pathways. We are always going back and forth across our landscape, not just mowing, but if you're out there, You know, you might be going to get the chickens, you might be going to check the mail. I know that when my daughter was parking out in front of the house, she would wear a pathway across the lawn to and from the front porch and her car. And so you want to put pathways in there that are convenient to use, that are productive for getting from point A to point B. Certainly on my landscape, I've got a lot of fruit trees in there, and I'm establishing paths as those go in. Because of the nature of lawn and the sprinkling and irrigation it requires, it is really best to go ahead and not have these paths be lawn, because you'll be wasting water. We'll touch on that again later. And the last concept you are going to want to look at is planting beds. This is really, really important. The Americans have kind of, really been in love with their lawns for a long time now. We miss out a lot on the nice flowers, the nice color, the scents. I love smelling flowers, and all these other things that can be associated and are associated with flowering plants, with shrubs, and even with trees. And so creating these planting beds generally around that open center gives us the beauty we want without feeling like we have to sacrifice because we don't have a quarter acre of straight lawn. And it really, really, really leads to a landscape that isn't necessarily more expensive, but it looks more upscale. It does make a difference. Hopefully later on I can show you some of these things. It's winter, it's snowy outside. I cannot show you anybody's landscape with any reliability, but this is a start in a new series talking about localscaping. And the thing is this isn't, as I've talked about this, I said very little about actual water usage. These are actually good design principles, but when you use these design principles, less water usage can result fairly easily from it. If you look at the lawn is one of the most water thirsty things that we grow. It doesn't necessarily need as much water as we give it, and it certainly could do with a lot less water if we were willing to have a little bit more brown. And so we almost always overwater lawn to get that green, and then we go beyond the green, so that it's pretty excessive. Trees do use more water than lawn, but we water them differently, so that tends to save water if you have well-placed trees versus straight lawn. The other thing that I look at is the irrigation systems of lawn. They are by nature spray. You can do underground systems. They're not highly reliable. The delivery system that lawn typically does best with is not the most efficient way to do it, to irrigate, and we inherently waste water with those. So cutting down on lawn really saves a lot of water. Next thing is everything else, including the trees, can be watered using drip, which is the most efficient system of watering we currently have now. So you can water your trees, your shrubs, your flowers, your mom's most beautiful peonies. That's okay. You can do that with drip, and it's very effective and very good quality and saves a lot of water. So the water savings on this almost come inherently. If you assume that you're going to use drip for everything but lawn, you're going to save water. If you design your lawn system so that you've got enough lawn that you're not overspraying, because if you do a 2-foot strip of lawn, I talked about this earlier in the past, it's very hard to keep that sprayed on water on the lawn. If you have a path of another substance, not a problem. And if you have grass that's at least 8 foot by 8 foot, then it's much easier to efficiently water that, at least as far as efficiency on a sprinkler system goes. So there's a lot of things that come together. This is the first video I'm doing in my series on localscapes. This is to promote intelligent gardening, whether you're saving water or not. It's just a good system, and I really have to shout out to the people at the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District at putting this together and caring enough to not just go with the easy answers of just have an ugly lawn or just have an ugly yard. You can actually have a beautiful yard and still save water. Or if you're out there where it rains a lot, this will actually help you just have a better, good-looking lawn that actually looks higher end than you might think. Keep an eye out, and I will post a link to Localscapes below so you can study more on your own. They do have online classes. And if you'd like to subscribe, and I'd actually really appreciate this because it helps YouTube know I'm here, please look at the link right there to just subscribe. And then over here I've got some great other videos, or maybe even a playlist that you'd be interested in. I'd appreciate you taking a look at that. And for my Facebook people, if you could go to Alex Grover's Garden and Grow How and like and follow that page, then you'll be able to get notifications of when I'm doing new stuff. On Facebook, it's hard to do anything else. I do try and advertise this stuff, but you know, if you want to get it, if you want access, and if you want to enjoy everything I do, it's best to just go ahead, follow my page. Catch y'all later. Manana. Catch y'all later. Manana.